The company that makes Snickers also owns the largest network of veterinary clinics in America. It is called Mars Incorporated. Most Americans know them for chocolate. They own more than 2,000 veterinary hospitals across the country. They own the largest pet diagnostic laboratory in the United States. They are the world's largest pet food manufacturer. A U.S. Senate investigation opened in November 2024. This is the story of how a private family-owned candy company became the most powerful force in American pet care, and what that has done to the cost of keeping a pet alive. Mars Incorporated was founded in 1911 by a candy maker named Frank Mars. 2 decades later, his son, Forrest Mars, created the Milky Way. Then Snickers. Then M&Ms, the company, stayed in the family. It still is. Mars Incorporated is one of the largest privately held companies in America. Annual revenue is estimated at approximately $50 billion. They report to no public shareholders. They file no quarterly earnings statements. They are not required to disclose what they pay their executives, what their profit margins are, or how they make their strategic decisions. What we know about Mars comes from the announcements they choose to make, the acquisitions they file with the government, the press releases they issue when a deal closes. What we do not know is most of what they do, and what they have been doing for the last 20 years is buying the American pet care industry. The acquisitions came in waves. Banfield Pet Hospital, a chain of veterinary clinics that operate inside PetSmart stores. Mars took a controlling interest in the parent company and later acquired Banfield outright. They now operate more than 1,000 Banfield locations across the country. BluePearl, a specialty and emergency veterinary network, acquired in 2015, over 100 locations. Pet Partners, a specialty veterinary group, acquired in 2016. And then, the big one. In January 2017, Mars announced it would acquire VCA Antech for $9.1 billion. VCA stood for Veterinary Centers of America. At the time of the acquisition, VCA operated more than 800 animal hospitals across 43 states and 5 Canadian provinces. The deal also included Sound Technologies, the leading provider of veterinary imaging, Camp Beau Wow, a chain of dog daycare facilities. And one more thing, Antech Diagnostics. Antech is the largest pet diagnostic laboratory in the United States. When a veterinarian draws blood from your dog or cat for testing, the sample is shipped to a lab to be processed. Antech processes blood work, urinalysis, and tissue samples for more than half of all American animal hospitals. The Federal Trade Commission reviewed the VCA deal. They required Mars to divest 12 specific veterinary clinics, where Mars's existing footprint would have eliminated local competition. 12 clinics out of more than 800. The merger closed. Mars Veterinary Health was born. Today, it employs more than 55,000 people in the United States alone. Most pet owners in America still believe they take their pets to an independent veterinarian. Many of them are right. Despite the consolidation, roughly half of American veterinary clinics are still independently owned and operated. But independence has a hidden ceiling. When an independent veterinarian draws blood from your pet, runs a urinalysis, or takes a tissue sample for biopsy, the laboratory work is rarely done in the clinic itself. It is shipped out for processing to Antech or to its primary competitor, IDEXX. Antech is owned by Mars Incorporated. Antech processes the samples. Antech sets the prices. Antech receives the data, the medical history of your pet, the test results, the diagnosis. Then, Antech sends the results back to your independent veterinarian. The clinic on your street may be locally owned. The exam room may be staffed by a veterinarian who has been your family's vet for 20 years. The bill may still come from a small business. But the diagnostic data, the actual medical record of every pet who walks through that door, passes through a Mars-owned laboratory. This is what consolidation looks like when it stops at the lab. The visible storefront stays independent. The invisible infrastructure does not. If this is the kind of pattern you want to see exposed every Thursday, hit subscribe. pet care has gotten significantly more expensive. The American Veterinary Medical Association acknowledges this. Pet owners experience it directly. According to the American Pet Products Association, Americans spend over $150 billion on their pets in 2024. Of that, more than $38 billion went to veterinary care alone. Pet healthcare expenditures have grown faster than human healthcare spending for most of the last decade. The veterinarians themselves blame several factors: the cost of advanced equipment, the cost of pharmaceutical drugs, inflation, staffing shortages. But veterinarians also describe a more specific pattern. When an independent clinic is acquired by a corporate chain, prices go up. Procedures that cost $300 cost $500. Annual checkups that included routine blood work at no extra charge become bundled with additional diagnostics priced separately. 3/4 of American veterinarians report that the cost of veterinary care has risen faster than family income. Pet insurance, once a niche product, has expanded rapidly to fill the gap. The pet insurance industry is itself rapidly consolidating around a handful of large carriers, and a significant portion of all that revenue eventually flows back to the same handful of corporate owners. The clinic charges the visit. The corporate parent collects the profit. The lab work goes back through Antech. The diagnostic equipment was made by Sound. The food the pet owner buys on the way home is a Mars brand. The extraction happens at every step. Veterinarians who work for corporate-owned chains often sign non-compete agreements when they are hired. The terms vary by employer, but the agreements generally restrict a veterinarian from leaving one corporate-owned clinic and going to work for another nearby clinic, or from opening their own independent practice within a defined geographic radius and for a defined period of time. In some contracts, the radius is 15 miles, in others 25 miles. The time period is often 2 to 3 years. The effect is that a veterinarian who decides they do not want to work for a corporate chain anymore cannot simply quit and open their own practice in the town where they have built their reputation. They must move, or they must wait out the non-compete period without earning income from veterinary medicine. The Federal Trade Commission attempted to ban non-compete agreements for most American workers in 2024. A federal court blocked the rule in 2025. Veterinary non-competes are still legal in most states. The result is that the workforce required to run an independent veterinary practice, the veterinarians themselves, is partially captured by the same corporate structure that owns most of the clinics. Independent ownership of clinics may be possible. Independent staffing of those clinics is harder. On November 18, 2024, the United States Senate sent a formal letter to Mars Incorporated. The letter requested information about Mars's consolidation of the American veterinary industry. It asked for documentation of pricing practices at Mars-owned clinics. It asked for data on the use of non-compete agreements with Mars-employed veterinarians. It asked for an accounting of how Antech Diagnostics interacts with independent veterinary clinics. The Senate sent similar letters to JAB Holding, a Luxembourg-based private equity firm that owns the second-largest American veterinary chain, and to KKR & Company, the American private equity firm that owns the third-largest. The investigation acknowledged that the consolidation of American veterinary care has implications for consumer prices, for independent veterinarians, for the long-term resilience of the pet care system that millions of American families depend on. The investigation is ongoing. There has been no Senate hearing. There have been no public findings. No legislation has been proposed. Mars Incorporated has not been required to disclose anything publicly. The pattern continues. The defenders of this system argue that corporate consolidation has been good for American pet care, that large chains can afford better equipment than independent clinics, that standardization improves quality, that economies of scale benefit consumers. Some of that is true, but that is not the system that exists. What exists is a market in which a single privately held company makes the food in your pet's bowl, owns more than 2,000 of the clinics where you take that pet for care, owns the laboratory that processes the diagnostic tests for most of the rest of the clinics, makes the imaging equipment those clinics use, and employs over 55,000 of the people who work in American pet healthcare. A market in which veterinarians who try to start independent practices cannot hire each other's former employees because of non-compete agreements, cannot escape the diagnostic infrastructure because the alternative is owned by the same competitor, cannot price their services lower than the corporate chains because the chains have economies of scale that the independents cannot match. And the Americans who own pets, 66% of American households, are paying for this consolidation with their wallets, with the cost of treating their animals, with the slow disappearance of the small-town veterinarians their families have known for generations. The American Petcare system did not become a Mars subsidiary by accident. It was bought. One clinic, one laboratory, one acquisition at a time. Over 20 years. The Senate noticed in 2024. The buying continues.